And Ms. Mullenbeck, we're ready.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education of Glenbrook High School District 225. Ms. Smith, could we have the roll, please?
Mr. Downing.
Present.
Mr. Glowacki.
Present.
Mrs. Hope. Here. Ms. Mullenbeck.
Here.
Mr. O'Hara.
Here.
Mr. Schein. Dr. Steinberg. 5 members present.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda.
Moved. Oh, sorry.
Dr. Gravel, have there been any changes to the agenda as it was circulated?
There was just one change, not to the agenda, but to one of our attachments. The course guide, we actually added an updated table of contents just to make items a little more easier to find. So that has been uploaded not only in Diligent for the board site, but also on all of our district websites.
Wonderful. Mr. Downing, would you like to move to approve the agenda?
I defer to Mr. Glowacki.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. That brings us now to our superintendent report. Take it away, Dr. Gravel.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to join, those who are present here and those who are joining us online. Today, I just have 2 items I wanted to focus on. The first is really an initiative of our communications department. And board members, you have this in front of you this evening. One of the areas that we're continuing to work through enhancing our outreach on are the different social media platforms and our profiles that so many members of our community, our parents and students, and many of our alumni throughout the nation actually follow. And so just kind of walking you through this, the front page speaks about how many different followers we have or likes we have on different respective areas. But beyond just passive association, we're really trying to dig into engagement. How many individuals not only scroll past what we might have posted, but click into it or comment on it or otherwise interact on that. So I'm really appreciative that we have some longitudinal data here. We're going to start kind of compiling this on a year-by-year basis, but to get us started, we have dating back to July 2025, and you'll see where that trend line is. When you see trends change, one of the natural questions you might be wondering is, what did people get excited about? And the communications team has given you some of your 3 top hits here. Not surprisingly, people get really excited when we talk about kids, when we celebrate what's going on, when we recognize them at board meetings, we recognize them in their own elements or at different contests. And so you'll see a lot of interactions there. One of the other things I wanted to highlight is the different audience that we ultimately are reaching when we use different services. When we use Instagram, we're oftentimes accessing more of our students. When we're using Facebook, more of our parents. But when we're on LinkedIn, we're connecting with a lot of our staff, individuals in the profession that are monitoring all sorts of different school websites and things of that nature. And so you'll see some different posts come to the forefront. So with data, ultimately, we hope to inform our practices and further support really the promotion of our students and our staff and our community success across the 4 A's. So this is a resource that we'll be sharing with our communications committee when we gather together, but we'll be compiling it monthly and we'll make sure to provide it to the full board and our community as we work through it.
A quick question.
Absolutely, sir.
Do you guys track, or is it on here? Maybe I didn't see it. How many people are forwarding, or besides just liking it, are they reposting it or forwarding it?
So that's a great question. I know we utilize an analytics platform called Hootsuite that tracks us on a few ways. Ms. Smith or Mrs. Salonikas, do you have any?
I'm sure that we could track the shares piece of it. We just didn't do it in this report.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see how many people repost.
Sure.
Track shares and reposts. All right. Any other thoughts on the analytics report? You have them later. We'd be grateful to hear them. Second topic I just wanted to talk about actually comes back to board members and engaging with the community. In front of all the members this evening, I have just a brief memo that outlines all of the different groups that individuals had reached out to Ms. Mullenbeck or myself about your interest in engaging. A few real important highlights. we started having this conversation back in October in an effort to make sure that some of our board members who might not always be in the schools each week because your kids have graduated, but provide those opportunities to be connected to what's going on in the school buildings. And to do so, leveraging some of our existing organizations or our structures that exist now. And so we identified all of the different parent organizations, and we identified a few that we would start with and establish board liaisons with those organizations. Those included the GBN and GBS Parents Association, the GBN and GBS Booster Clubs, and the Glenbrook Foundation, which is district-wide, and also our Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee. So you'll see if your name was submitted that I've added you here. If you don't see your name, just let me know after the meeting. I'm more than happy to add you to the list. And based on this, starting at the end of the week, we'll start sending out Google Calendar invites so you have those meetings on your calendar. In addition to support you, and just to have an individual to make a connection between yourself as a board member as well as the organization leadership, one of the members of the cabinet, which could include myself, Dr. Johns, Dr. Cummings, Mr. Breetag, Ms. Smith, and others, will connect with you and attend the meetings so that, again, if anything comes up or we can make those connections, it kind of makes a little smooth experience. And the other thing I've done is after the meetings, what our real hope is that we can bring back what we hear in those meetings so it can be shared around the board table. And sometimes it helps just to have a little outline for what it is that we might be listening for. So I put that in there. Celebrations or highlights, topics of interest or the themes in the discussion, questions or feedback shared by parents, and then follow-up items. The only other thing I would just offer for board members as you're starting to get into attending some of these meetings, just remember that these are established organizations that create their agendas, have objectives and things of that nature. We're not going to them with the intent of being put on the agenda as our own agenda item, if you will. It's really to provide us an opportunity to listen, to have conversations, to reflect. Certainly you might be asked questions, and always remember, if you get asked questions in the capacity as a board member, it's important that we only speak for ourselves and not the board as a whole. But I'm really hoping that we can get a good pulse, bring it back, and maybe that shapes future board presentations, discussions that we need to address, and making sure that we're having that holistic understanding of what our parents' needs are right here at the table. So I've talked a whole lot, I've given a memo, but I really wanted to open it up and see if anyone had any questions, anything we can support as we kind of kick off this effort this January. All right. Seeing no, that concludes my report, but there's some more reports coming.
Did you want me to talk about?
Well, we're going to move on to board
Okay,
reports, and
very good.
Mr. Downing has a report from
Athletic boosters.
Athletic Boosters. There we go.
That kind of was part and parcel what you're talking about, sure. So, yeah, following that kind of getting involved with the community, I was able to attend the Booster Club, the Glenbrook North Booster Club meeting a week ago Monday with Dr. Gravel. Very welcoming group, they were very excited to see us and talk to us. I don't know how many times board members have gone there, but I highly encourage going to these kind of things because they were very active, very engaged. They even had Chipotle, which was fantastic. And we outlined the 10-year facilities plan, which they were super engaged with, very excited, gave us some really valuable feedback, lots of great questions. We got some volunteers out of it too. So, I mean, if you're concerned about going, don't be, because everyone I've been to so far, they've been so welcoming. And I've gotten some great feedback and really made me think about things differently, as well as, kind of establish a new good relationship with people that are volunteering their time too.
Thank you, Mr. Downing. And then we also had a report from the policy committee that just met, and I'd be happy to do that unless Mr. O'Hare would like to take a crack at it.
Sure. No, we're redoing our policies. We're in the meat of the matter now. We did half of 6 and part of 7. 6 is instruction and 7 is students.
6, 7.
6, 7. Yep. Um, fully exciting meeting to talk about how we're doing our instructions, how we're handling our students. You know, some of the stuff we haven't touched in 20, 25 years. Some of these policies are old. And it's good to get back at them and start updating them, making them modern.
Excellent. And we want to thank Mr. Downing for attending as a general board member to our policy committee meeting. We will be having another meeting sometime in January. We will publicize that. And then in January, was it 28th? We'll be meeting again with the ISB representatives from press to go over this new tranche. So make sure you put that on your calendar.
Oh, they are
everybody.
so much fun. Really, really, I suggest they're a lot of.
All right. Does anyone have any other board reports? And there are cookies, that's right. And tarts. Today we had tarts. The tarts were outstanding. Moving on then to item 5 on our agenda, which is recognition of community visitors. We do have a community visitor tonight for our public comment period. So I will begin by just saying that this is an up to 30-minute period for public participation. Each individual may speak to the board for up to 2 minutes. We ask but do not require that each speaker state their name, address, and relationship to the district to facilitate follow-up if needed. All speakers are expected to conduct themselves with respect and civility toward others. Please remember that this is a business meeting of the board. All comments should be addressed to the board and should concern board business. The board receives public comments as a source of information and considers them in making decisions and in the establishment of policies. It is our practice to take no action on any items nor to discuss any items members of the public have raised until the board has had time to gather information and then objectively discuss available options. However, during the meeting, the board, at its discretion, may choose to address an issue or correct any misinformation raised during public comment. While the board does not control the topics brought to its attention or the substance of the public comment, speakers are reminded that their comments are not automatically protected by any immunity or other legal protection. And tonight we have with us James W.
Thank you very much. 1827 Sunnyside Circle, Northbrook, Illinois. First of all, I would like to say, I must say, I'd like to appreciate your willingness to come to the Booster Club meeting. The Booster Club actually has various policy changes, and they actually do not permit all of its members to attend their meetings anymore. But that's not why I came up here. This year at District 225 has seen an interesting coincidence where a very popular internet meme has paradoxically shared what used to be the name of the lunch block at Glenbrook North, which also was the most coveted free period among many students at Glenbrook North at the time. I am sharing this as an example because one of the things that was a very significant part of my student career while at Glenbrook North was the fact that while students often created the social structure that determined our social status and whether or not we fit in, there was a major disconnect between what my fellow students told me I needed to do to fit in and the students who coached me as an autistic kid who didn't always know how to fit in and what my fellow teachers were telling me was important on how to fit in. I personally think that in a world where so many children and so many students are complaining they do not fit in and are going to ask and are asking for help from their teachers and instructors, just as we have now understood that there are internet memes and are now utilizing them in various comments. I personally encourage everyone who is affiliated with any schools to look around, pay attention to those student structures students are creating, because at the end of the day, it was what the students determined I needed to fit in that ultimately made more of a difference than what the teachers told me, who were not always aware of what I needed to gain full social acceptance while a student at Glenbrook North. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. And Dr. Gravel, have there been any changes to the consent agenda since it was circulated?
There have been no changes.
In that case, could I please have a motion regarding the consent agenda?
So moved.
I second.
Mr. Downing,
Yes.
Mr. Glacki,
Yes.
Mrs. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. O'Hara,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck.
Yes.
6 members voting yes.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the public hearing on our tax levy for 2025, which we had on the at the previous meeting, we had some discussion of. And I believe Ms. Tarver, oh, I'm sorry, I have my script. That'll make it easy. Let's start with the hearing. At this time, I'm opening the hearing on the proposed tax levy for 2025. An estimated tax levy was made available to the community at the November 10th, 2025 meeting. Information about the levy was also published in the Glenview Announcements and Northbrook Star on Thursday, November 27th, 2025. Additionally, information regarding the school district's fund balance was made available on the school district's website through the 2025 fiscal year annual financial report and the 2026 fiscal year budget. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board? In that case, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the proposed levy.
So moved.
I second.
Don't we have to give space for people to say something on public hearing?
Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Mullenbeck. There
Okay.
is a line that's missing. Before we vote on the motion, if we could open up for any members of the community who'd like to make a comment.
Okay. Before we vote on the motion, are there any members of the community who would like to speak or address the board regarding the levy? Okay. In that case, now I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the proposed levy.
So moved.
I second.
Ms. Smith?
Mr. Glacki,
Yes.
Mrs. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. O'Hara,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Downing,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck.
Yes.
6 members voting yes.
With a vote of 6-0, I declare the hearing on the proposed levy for 2025 closed. As a reminder, we will need to take a roll call vote for each of the 3 resolutions. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution to levy 2025 taxes.
I'm second.
Ms. Smith?
I heard 2 seconds. I just.
Oh,
wanna make
sorry.
sure. Sure.
Beth?
Okay. Mrs. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. O'Hara,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Downing,
Yes.
Mr. Glacki,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck.
Yes.
6 members voting yes.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution regarding application of loss and cost factor to 2025 tax levies.
I move.
Second.
Mr. O'Hara,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Downing,
Yes.
Mr. Glacki,
Yes.
Mrs. Hope,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck.
Yes.
6 members voting yes.
And at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution to instruct county clerk how to apportion 2025 tax levy extension required.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Downing,
Yes.
Mr. Glacki,
Yes.
Mrs. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. O'Hara,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck.
Yes.
6 members voting yes.
Thank you. We will now move on to our discussion and action agenda, and that will begin with our personalized learning plans presentation.
This evening, we are really excited to talk about a topic that has been in development for several years. We recognize that every student has a pathway, a journey that they're going to participate on throughout their high school experience. And sometimes students' journeys, maybe even neighbors, can look the same. And other times, they can look very different. We also know that our parents, many of which are Glenbrook alumni themselves, have taken a path, and sometimes their own pathway and their life experiences and their passions can help further shape and inform what their students might be interested in, what journey they're taking. One thing is very sure, there's a lot of information that's out there. There's a lot of ideas of what path a student should take in terms of the courses they select, the career paths or the colleges that they perceive and move forward with. And in reality, recognizing the impact that each of these decisions make, the district has made a concerted effort over the last few years to make sure that this conversation is at the forefront of our students' journey, even before they step foot into Glenbrook North or Glenbrook South. And most importantly, that as they're contemplating things, as they're looking at different course options and recommendations in which pathway to choose, that they're doing so not alone as rising freshmen, but with their parents and having family conversations and engaging with professionals such as our school counselors and our amazing student services team. This is directly associated with focus area or goal 1 of the strategic plan, where we use terms such as each student shall create and find their own dynamic learning pathway, and the school should be here to support them, recognizing that what that pathway and journey might be as you're a rising freshman in December before you even start high school, and what that might look like in September, October of their freshman year. Things, as we know, change. And so this evening, to lead our presentation, we have Dr. Cummings, and she will be joined by 2 amazing folks who have met with hundreds of students along with their teams over the last few weeks. And that's Dr. Lauren O'Malley, our Assistant Principal of Student Services at Glenbrook North, and Ms. Rebecca Holst, our Assistant Principal of Student Services at Glenbrook South. First of all, thank you both for being here. And I can't wait for you to share your passion and enthusiasm for what our students have started to go through today. And board members, just as a measure of efficiency, this particular topic will be directly associated with our discussion on the strategic plan in just a few moments.
That was not a coincidence. Pre-planned. Well, thank you for having us here. We are beyond excited to talk with you about the personalized learning plan. I will give a shameless plug for the Glenbrook Insights that dropped today, starring the 3 of us and RJ, of course. Where we had an opportunity to talk about the personalized learning plan to our parents, community, anyone who will listen to it and download it, and really talk through the registration process as well. So please, on your way home tonight, feel free to, take a listen to that if you need more info than we're sharing tonight. So for me, the reason why I am beyond thrilled that I'm here tonight having this conversation, because this is the first time in the Glenbrooks that all of our parents and students are having a common, similar experience. And I think that's so valuable and so important. And it's such a positive way of proactively bringing parents in to meet with their child and their counselor, and have that opportunity to what RJ talked about in terms of that dynamic plan. This is not a plan that's written on a piece of paper that we never look at again. That's actually what it used to be. But now we're very fortunate to have a platform such as School Links that helps create this plan to keep it dynamic, to make sure that we're constantly reviewing it, and that every student's plan is going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to take you really quick just through our journey of getting here, and I'll kind of sum it up real nicely and quickly for you. Last year, during the entire 24-25 school year, we, student services and all the counselors came together to backward design the curriculum. Basically, we were saying, where do we want kids to be, students to be, when they leave high school? And then how do we work backwards to make sure they're being exposed to all of that? Part of it was the PACE framework. And on the slide, you can see just the freshmen. The PACE framework is an Illinois mandate for us to, it's for post-secondary and career exploration. And we have been able to detail for each grade level what the focus is for them during that freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year. So based on that PACE framework, the counselors all join different curriculum groups. So we have one for each of the 4 grade levels, and they backward design a curriculum for the students, and it is a district-wide curriculum. So all freshmen have been exposed to that same curriculum. So that is how we started it. And then this year is really the first year of the implementation of this curriculum. And for freshmen, one of the first things they do during their freshman year is the creation of this personalized learning plan. So I'm going to jump into the next slide. The first part, today we're going to have a slide on each of the different components of the personalized learning plan, and then we'll kind of give a general overview so you kind of understand what it looks like when the parents come into the building. But the first thing that the students will do is they will look at several of these different goal areas. And we are asking students, yes, as freshmen, as 14 or 15-year-olds, to start making decisions about career goals and what cluster, knowing again, every year, this plan is going to be revisited minimally once, but can be revisited at any time. And they're changing their goals as they go along. I think one of the most valuable parts of the PLP, which we customized in the Glenbrooks, was actually adding different goals regarding their academics, their hobbies, their interests, activities, and athletics, so that the counselors started to get a sense of what they wanted to be involved in and what classes might relate to that. So those conversations have started, students have started to identify their goals. On the next slide, one of the other things that is part of the personalized learning plan is graduation progress and requirements. The screenshot here says they didn't meet graduation requirements because it's a 9th grader. But when Rebecca shows you a slide in a little bit, you're going to see the visual representation of the credits, and the goal is to keep students on track to graduate while meeting all these other goals. It is built into the personalized learning plan so students know, and counselors, that they are able to graduate and they've met all the requirements. On the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Lauren O'Malley to talk through assessments.
Definitely. As part of the general freshman curriculum, our counselors push into our student resource time to be able to provide some lessons and get students started on their personalized learning plan and some exposure to school links. There's 2 particular assessments that our 9th grade students were exposed to and got to engage with. One of them was the Finding Your Path assessment. And you kind of see this visual as like rolls through the different questions and help students to think about where they might want to head, career areas they might be interested in, career clusters that they might be thinking about to help to support and navigate some of those post-secondary considerations that they might have as 9th grade students. And the results are incredibly valuable for the counselors as they guide conversations with families. Depending on what a student's post-secondary pursuit might be, it's important for some students 9th grade year to be thinking about courses that they need to take 10th grade, 11th grade to prepare them for 12th grade courses for certain college and university plans that they might have. Similarly, it helps to guide conversations about balance and considerations about how students want to navigate course loads and different levels of courses depending on what they want to do after high school. Those are important conversations. So instead of students looking to their peers for guidance about what courses they need to be in, they can kind of look to some of these assessments, some of those results to help guide what they're thinking about post high school. And then there's a second one about learning styles. It's multiple choice questions for students to think about their learning styles, their problem solving, and just to engage in like a little bit of metacognition about how they themselves are learners, which might guide the types of courses that they might want to consider when they're choosing their courses, when they're talking with their counselors about their 4-year academic plan or the personalized learning plan. So these are just some 9th grade assessments that students will do. I know Laura showed just the one portion of the PACE framework, but as students move through high school, they're going to be exposed to different assessments that we assign them, that we review with them. Our sophomores this fall, we're reviewing some as well. So this is just a snapshot of what our 9th graders have access to in the School Links platform, which is incredibly robust. But you know, as Laura mentioned, these are we put a personal spin on what we want to do in the Glenbrooks, what we think is really valuable for our students in our community. So just two areas. And I'll pass it off to Rebecca to talk a little bit about the course planner, which I think is the little bit of like the meat of students picking their courses for next year.
Thank you. So as you can see, this is what a current freshman would see when they logged in. All the way to the left are, in theory, the courses in the student's schedule right now. And then it builds forward automatically. The next course in sequence for that student. So you can see at the very top, the student is in English 1 AH, and then it just fills the next 2 years automatically. It doesn't mean that that decision is 100% set in stone. That is just kind of the default, and other conversations can happen from there. But it identifies for the family really where they need to spend their time for choice making. You can really target that conversation at home. If everything's going swimmingly in English 1 and they're not looking to make a change, they can have a more robust conversation about what social studies class they're going to offer. So you can see sophomore year, there's no kind of in the middle of there's no required social studies course sophomore year. So that's why that's blank. And then they can put their choice in there before they meet with their counselor, and then have that conversation with their counselor when they meet. One of the things that we just also we can kind of toggle between these two slides. This year we had the PLPs in November. So families and their students picked a 20-minute slot. If the parents and guardians couldn't come in, they could either Zoom in or phone in. Either one we made happen. We had a tremendous percentage come into the building, which is, it's really nice for a variety of reasons. It's really nice for that connection from the counselor, the student, and the parents and guardians to really just have that face-to-face, in-person conversation. It's really difficult to replicate. So students are present. It is typically during their lunch or SRT or other free block that they have before school, after school. They were kind of the entire day in student services in the month of November. And this plan here was where the conversation started. So the counselor is going to say, just a general, how is it going? You know, how are your grades in these classes? What's your balance and load like? How are you getting involved? Do you like any of these classes that you're going to join a club that is in this department? Are you so loving English, you're going to either join the Oracle or Yearbook? And it really allows for robust conversations with the family present. And that you can't discredit how important that is right there. So it allows for that communication. It allows to talk about course recommendations and how the transition's going. Is it too easy? Is it too difficult? Are you using your time wisely? Then they get into just other graduation requirements. They can fold in that conversation of careers and what you've learned in these assessments, and maybe do some more. You know, it's not every household where the student comes home and says, this is what I did at school. But this gives the parent insight into what the student's actually doing and how they can continue to have those conversations. On January 8th, Lauren and I will both present at our respective schools about School Links and encourage families to go in. But it's overwhelming, right? They're drinking from a fire hose when it comes to curriculum night. So circling back to that and really kind of saying, this is what it is, go home and play around, allows for a really kind of level playing field for everybody. It's also a great time to answer questions. Lots of questions about NHS, lots of questions about student travel, lots of questions about summer school. How can my student get involved? They're only free on Mondays. That's a really nice, just kind of Q&A. I'm really lucky to be able to pop in and out of these meetings and make sure that kind of every kid is getting a very, very similar experience. When we have transfers come in, we do the meeting right away. So they don't get missed. Any transfer throughout their entire kind of 4 years that they can transfer into the Glenbrooks, they have this PLP right away with their families when they come in and pick their courses. In the end, when a student graduates, this whole screen will be full of the classes that they've taken, what they've earned credit in. And then you'll see, you can't really see it very well here, but where they have missing graduation requirements and where they've met all the graduation requirements. Thank you. Any questions for us?
Mr. Glowacki?
Just, I guess, a quick, wonderful work in terms of this and having two students go through the process, just seeing the change in terms of that. How is this coordinated with the college counselors? Because many times you start having those discussions with them about junior year, and there's some surprises parents kind of encounter based on certain schools that the families were looking at and everything, like, oh, well, you should have been considering this. So how does that coordination work with the other counselors?
So at Glenbrook South, and I'm fairly certain it's exactly the same at Glenbrook North, kind of 2 weeks ago, the counselors presented to both sophomores and juniors. And then last week and this week, the college and career counselors are presenting. And then they're doing their evening presentation later this week as well. So those presentations are of a nice kind of dovetail together of, think about what courses you're about ready to take, you're about ready to ask for, you're requesting, and your post-secondary plans, whatever those might be. It's also really important for us too, we talked about this on the podcast, that they're putting the requests in right now. Juniors are going to do it in January. And then they have this, what we call a verification window, where they have a couple of days, parents can go in, they can sit down with their student and look in school links and see what they requested and then request a change at that point.
But how are the counselors, I guess, because the counselors are developing the relationship since freshman year. I guess my question is, how are they learning from the college counselors who have the relationship with the universities? Because PACE is the foundation of what is required for us to communicate, but you're learning insights from University X. Oh, they prefer if you've got these clubs and these activities. And University C says something else. They're like, oh, no, we prefer a well-rounded student and everything. And how often do you guys meet, I guess, and coordinate on that front?
Great question. So the college counselors have been an integral part of creating the PACE framework and sitting on all 4 curriculums. So they have the luxury of being able to pop in and out of all of the grade levels because there is post-secondary career readiness work that has to be done all 4 years. And we have identified which areas we want the college counselor presenting on versus one of our school counselors. Do know that our school counselors do post-secondary planning as well, both career, college, et cetera. And so they meet on a weekly basis with the college counselor, getting any kind of updates from colleges and learning that information from that. But they are integral to this process in terms of going back to the counselors, like the freshman committee is going to go back to the whole group of counselors and train them in essence on the curriculum so that it's being implemented correctly, and the college counselors are part of that.
Okay, so it's a team effort.
You got it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yep.
No further questions.
Mr. Downing?
I really have to reiterate, this is great. I don't need a long-winded answer. I don't need I'm sure I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway. Kids change their mind every day. I can't tell you how many people I see in the work world who have a degree they don't use at all, right? What level of discussion is talked about with that? But that anything they say is not set in stone.
Yeah, definitely, especially for our 9th graders, really considering that. I think one of the benefits of doing the PLP meetings in November is time post to conversations with families. So we still have the month of December and really the month of January for families to post meeting, go home and consider the conversations that they were having, weigh their options and considerations. And by the end of January, we really do come to the end of the course request season. And I think if, this board could appreciate, we need to balance the students, pursuits and passions and desire for change with like navigating and managing, building a master schedule and getting students the courses that they want and the staffing plan, some of the technical pieces that go alongside running a successful school. But having the meetings in November does permit a little bit of time and a little bit of wiggle room for students to engage in those conversations. I know we have families that leave and call David Boyle over at Glenbrook North and say, is this a good idea? We have counselors. I'm on a multitude of email threads about different levels, trajectories, different pathways for sort of cohorts of students that we see follow a similar set of plans, and are soliciting advice from a college counselor and like weighing how we're advising students across all of the counselors. So a lot of those conversations, especially for our 9th grade families, are happening over the next couple of months. So we do have a little bit of time, but we do, like, the reality is we do enter into a season of time where there are more limited changes that are available, just given the natural constraints of a schedule and, movement in an individual's student schedules, in consideration of how we begin the start of the school year and want some, stasis and steadiness in classrooms, which is also really good for kids.
No, 100%, I agree. I meant like not changing a class, like if you decide to go down this path and come junior year, you don't want to be an engineer. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
And we have the-
flexibility.
Okay, yeah.
And we have students do that all the time. Students are constantly changing their minds. Their college plans, their career plans are changing. And we have the ability to shift and to move into different areas.
I just wanted to let them
yeah.
know that's natural, normal.
Yep,
I
definitely.
think this is a great way. It's a guided way to be able to engage with parents in and around thinking about where they want to go and getting professional feedback. It's fantastic. And I love the fact that, I can't remember who made the comment that, kids come home and you say, how was school today? Fine. How was practice? Fine. Everything's fine, whatever. You can't, it's like trying to move heaven and earth just to get more than that out of them. So I love the fact that the parents are engaged, and we do have an engaged community. They can come in and they can find out stuff about their kid that maybe they didn't even know that the kid is good at, and they can celebrate it. And now all of a sudden it's more, a sense of belonging. You're included in this organization, and there's so much to do in our district. I love the fact that parents have a way to see it now. And I think this is great, because I think every kid needs to take what they're good at and find it and hone it. And this is another way to do it.
It really is nice to see the parents walk through the halls with their child. Some of them a little embarrassed, but most of them really excited.
Mr. O'Hara?
Yeah, no, thank you guys. This is the stuff I love, as you're getting the kids. I mean, the whole point is helping them grow. I guess just so I understand, every student, not just the freshmen, had the PLP meetings in November, right? Or is freshmen, and then next year it'll be freshmen and sophomores, and then, so are you guys going to have a bottleneck in November at some point? Because there's only so many days and so many lunch periods?
True. It's only the freshmen that
Okay.
get the full kind of 20-minute PLP. Last week, both schools met with juniors, or I'm sorry, with current sophomores to pick their classes. It was a shorter meeting. It was really more condensed, and it was only students, not their parents or guardians. So it was looking at their plan and picking classes for next year. And in most cases, having a little bit of time left over to have that kind of career and college conversation. And then in January, the first full week back, both schools will meet with current juniors to do the same conversation.
And then the seniors obviously just meet with the
Correct.
Post-secondary.
They meet with post-secondary, and then they do have an exit conversation with the counselors.
Is there some thought of maybe getting the parents involved or are the parents allowed to be involved at sophomore and junior?
We can certainly phone or Zoom them in. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the main emphasis is the freshmen, that first one, to get them, because kind of getting back to Jack's thing, as you go down a road, sometimes it gets a weight all its own, and it can be hard to suddenly say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And so it's nice to have other people there who can listen and help them
Correct.
make changes. And I guess just so I understand, we keep counselor, student counselor, college counselor. What's the difference between a college counselor and a student counselor? Should we have just counselors? And I guess that might go beyond where we're at.
I'll ask Dr. Cummings to come up and take that question.
Sorry.
Counselors.
So if you look back at a lot of documentation, they used to be called guidance counselors. Very outdated term. Believed counselors, had to schedule classes and do some kind of clerical work, and that was about it. The concept of a school counselor is so much broader now, and really does include that post-secondary planning. That is part of a school counselor, is how we typically refer to, or a generalist counselor is how you would refer to every student being assigned a counselor. It's a school counselor, generalist. They're going to help them with their academic, social, emotional, post-secondary career, you name it. All the different parts of the PACE framework fall under the school counselor role. Our college counselors are added to help with that specialty of really creating the connection, I think as you said, Pete, regarding connections with colleges and scholarships and opportunities and really kind of honing in. The Glenbrooks are a special place, as we all know, but we encourage school counselors to go on college campuses to learn about the colleges. So it's not just our college counselors that are getting that information. We bring in a lot of different colleges. Our school counselors sit in on that to make sure that their knowledge is increasing of those schools. And when our college counselors travel or learn information about the school, that is being shared constantly with the school counselors. So many of our families will choose to use their school counselor to help with that post-secondary planning. But we are very fortunate we have the resource of a post-secondary that really hones in on that. And then that's available to all of our families. They typically, depending on the time of year, they work with primarily junior and senior students. College counselors will not typically meet with freshmen and sophomore students and parents. It's really during that junior year and then the beginning part of senior year. Does that explain? Yeah. Okay, just don't call them guidance counselors. School counselors is good.
Ms. Hope?
Yeah, I have a freshman, so I got to go through the PLP process this year and it was incredible. I mean, it was so valuable, and not only for the parents to hear from the counselor and to be brought into that, but for, the counselors are asking the parents to share about what they're seeing at home, to highlight the strengths of their students and to talk about concern. It really was such an incredible opportunity and so well done. So thank you.
Dr. Steinberg?
Thank you. I like that. I mean, this is great. I don't know who said this, but looking at what kind of courses a student want to take, regardless of the subjects, in terms of the high school experience, what things I feel better. I find it interesting that for many people, high school is depth, how much higher I can go in a certain topic, but then you have to write an essay. And if you didn't take time on reading books in English class or anything else, how do you come up on how to write an essay? And then you have to talk about your adventures outside of the curriculum, but if you only focus on the curriculum, you don't have them, while you're sitting for 4 years in a high school, and you can be doing all these things for free versus taking a class in college. To Jack's point, I always say I think on average, students get 2 majors in college because at least 50 to 70% change at least once. What I've been learning these past few years as the dean of the grad school is that the highest percentage of people that go to grad school are career changers. So not only people change degrees in college, then they go to grad school because they took 3 years doing what they thought it was the career of their life, and they realize it's very frustrating. I don't know if you see it here, but a lot of teachers go into teaching after getting a degree in something else and realizing that actually they prefer to do teaching. So this whole thing about we went through all of these, but trying to decide what we're going to do when we are 9 years old, but to later change it 3 or 4 times versus getting a well-grounded education and focus on the core subjects. I think that happens anyways, because students that come from the Glenbrooks, they go with that. I'm going to ask something that I thought Mr. O'Hare was going to beat me to the punch, but how this fits for the kids that say, I'm not sure I'm going to go to college, or I'm not sure I'm interested in going to college.
I mean, I think they share the experience. Students, we have, I would say, more of our students opt into pursuing a 2 or 4 year college or university. We have plenty of students who are opting straight into careers, other types of transitions, community college, armed forces. And so I think that in our conversations with students, we want to open the door for them to consider whatever their post-secondary pursuits are going to be, and lean into what the students and what the families are ultimately interested in. Because many of our students do opt into college and university, we do naturally tailor presentations and materials so students feel like they have access to that information. We do college planning and career planning. And if you look at some of the assessments that we go through with students, it's very career focused. So we talk a lot about different careers students might be interested in going into, rising careers that don't require college degrees, a lot of materials on school links for students to be able to access and consider what they're going to do after high school if they're going to move directly into the workforce. We have subsets of students for whom college is not the next step for them academically, and will move into transition programs, will move directly into careers as well. So depending on what the students' interests are, we have those conversations. And I think one of the benefits of the PLP meetings is we're learning and discovering more about students' post-secondary plans earlier than we would otherwise. Sometimes those conversations wouldn't have historically come up until junior or maybe even senior year at the beginning of the year, when all of our counselors are pulling students down to talk about what's happening after high school. And we learn that a student has been engaging in certain academic schedules that maybe weren't necessary for what they want to do after high school, or missed out on certain elective opportunities along the way that would have better prepared them for what they would actually like to do outside of high school. That's not necessarily, a 2 or 4 year college university that they might look to their peers as something that they're pursuing that students think they should also pursue. So I think we have a lot of opportunities, even if it's a smaller cohort of students. And I know at least through the PACE framework, there's a college focus, but it's really post-secondary. So I think you're going to hear that language a lot of what are your post-secondary plans? What are you thinking about doing after high school? Not where are you going to college? Because that is not the college can be one step along the way to a career. Some students skip that and they're going right into the career. We are assuming all students are going to do something when they graduate high school, whether it's, directly into the workforce or not. So I think just our semantics and the way that we talk about it is more inclusive language of all students who are considering plans after high school that may or may not include a more traditional route to and through college.
Okay, my last question. I don't know where to place it, especially with this distinction between college readiness counselors coming at the end. But as our district demographics change, there's an element that I don't think maybe we do, and that's part of the question, which is not every family can afford certain college experience. And we talk about learning experiences, living experiences, and college affordability is going out of the question for many people these days. So as we go through this 4-year path, I remember as a parent, I faced that too late, right? When we had these meetings in junior year, and by this point, my kids didn't know where they wanted to go, but they had these frameworks that they were looking at where affordability was not part of the question anywhere, okay? This was a given that, whether I need to go to the best X or I need to go to the school party or non-party or this and that. Are we working, since we're working with families, this gives us an opportunity to get a better understanding. And I just want to be clear, this, ideally college shouldn't be an issue of affordability or non-affordability, but we have to be realistic and we have to generate expectations, or at least let families prepare in advance for how to get to experience that the students deserve or they want to get.
Absolutely. So financial literacy is part of the PACE framework. It was really one of the main features of that in terms of being able to prepare, whether it's career or college, whether it's paying for the college or trying to live on their own. I was laughing because there's this game of life that we have students. Well, it used to be a board game, or still is a board game, but where they start to understand about even taking out loans in college and what does that look like to have to pay back those loans, and you have to pay for electricity, and really kind of walking through what does it mean to be an adult. And so that is woven into all 4 years of the curriculum.
Thank you.
Very important.
This is great. I can see how this will really facilitate these very helpful conversations, and I think that's terrific. I did have a particular question just because I know you just focused on these freshman meetings. This is our first cohort of students now that's working with the APA. And I'm just wondering how that conversation is playing out. We've talked about how the APA has given us a nudge to create maybe a sort of a middle road curriculum wise that maybe wasn't available in the Glenbrooks before, and that this might open up some opportunities for kids to feel like, hey, maybe I don't have to, take all honors classes, I can take, all accelerated honors classes, I could take some of the intermediate honors classes, and maybe that gives me a chance to take an elective, or, how are we seeing that play out? And maybe it's too early to say if it's only one group, but I'm just wondering are these expectations of there are going to be eighth graders who are coming in who are like, I've never taken honors classes before, but I think I can try now here, versus kids who are always like on a breakneck pace and think maybe I can take a step back, still get the well-rounded, approach that I want, but also have room to do other things. Are they asking those sorts of questions, or are they still kind of thinking the way they've always been thinking about what their potential tracking might be?
So I think in some of the meetings that I was lucky enough to join, those conversations are absolutely happening. The counselors are saying, what's the rigor like for you? Are you being challenged enough? Or maybe we need to level down one. And I think in some of the conversations that we've had, we've been very transparent. Why would we wait until next year to make that change? If a student needs to be challenged more and we can make that change for next semester, we will absolutely do so. If a student needs to take a level down, let's do it right now so that they can continue to grow, and then it won't impact, the impact on next year will be less because there won't be as many content gaps.
Okay, did anyone else have any other questions? This was a really helpful conversation. I'm sorry, my eyes aren't great, so I wasn't really able to see the format that well, but I think that it looked like it would be much more user-friendly than just pen and paper. So yeah, this is definitely a step into the future for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And I think Dr. Gravel gave us a little preview or alluded to the next topic on our agenda, our strategic plan update.
All right. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding as we gave a little bit of a preview of one of our most important focus areas, one of our most important goals, which is focus area 1, which is really all about student empowerment. Before we get into all of the meat and potatoes of the strategic plan, I want to take an opportunity and take a step backwards and think of where we were and where we've come. Arguably, back when Dr. Johns first joined the district, he presented a need to the Board of Education, which was the importance of creating a strategic plan so that we had a roadmap, a pathway that would shape a lot of our actions and decisions moving forward. Unfortunately, there was this small little hiatus that we needed to take in education for a period of time that happened in 2000, which delayed the starting of that conversation. I'm sorry, 2020. I'm missing 20 whole years. But in June 2023, the board actually started the process of identifying a consultant to help us craft this plan. And part of crafting a plan is listening to a lot of people. And when we say the word people, we often refer to, or we intend to refer to our students, our parents, our community members, our staff members, our alumni, our governmental agency partners, and our business partners, folks all around that contribute to the student experience throughout their high school time. As we listened to them, we started to draft the framework. And that framework, a little early preview, is this document that we greatly and proudly hold and share with so many, that has 4 overarching goals, a variety of strategies, and we'll also talk about some action steps in order to accomplish and fulfill those goals. We gathered a lot of feedback through multiple different drafts. In fact, around this board table, there might have been a little bit of wordsmithing that we needed to navigate through in order to make sure that we were comfortable with what was being put together. And ultimately, in August of 2024, the Board of Education approved the plan. Now, there's a real important part of this journey that we can't understate. I joined the district back in 2015. I know as we were looking around the table, we determined that Mr. Breetag had the longest amount of experience, having a little less than double my time here. And in all of our collective time, the district really never had a traditional strategic plan. We had a whole lot of goals and initiatives, but not this plan that was going to, in many ways, dictate that map and the journey we're about to take. And so throughout Dr. Johns' year last year, we introduced what a plan is. And when we say introduce, we explained this new concept of getting feedback from a whole lot of stakeholders that led to this map. And now that we gathered that feedback and now that we put it on paper, we need to give some reference to that and we need to follow it, which was a little different because oftentimes when you meet with folks, sometimes new ideas come up or different ways of looking at things. But again, this plan represented a 5-year pathway to have us accomplish our goals. But as we were presenting the plan, in a variety of different settings, we started with our administrators, we expanded to our teacher leaders, we expanded to our staff, our community members. We gathered a lot of feedback and got some tips, such as maybe as you continue to explain it, don't explain it in this way. Maybe tweak this, or, some of the language in the plan makes sense to me because I'm a specialist in that area, such as dynamic learning plan. But maybe to a parent, that's a little more confusing. As we gathered that feedback, we also got a few more direct statements and questions. So throughout the year, we're sharing this, we're talking about the 4 goals, yet we're still getting follow-up questions, such as, what is our direction as a district? What are the goals that we have for next year? What are the goals we have for the following year? And ultimately, because many things, as Ms. Tarver can articulate, come back to resources that are available, how do we align our resources with the strategic plan and with our initiative? All valid questions. And so we also kind of started to get some more direct feedback, which is more of labeling, such as when we would talk about the strategic plan, there might be feedback such as the strategic plan is district work. That's not schoolwork. That's on the district side. Or the strategic plan is not the staff's work. The strategic plan is board work. Again, all natural questions that come up because we've been in an organization that have not historically had this plan. So taking all of that feedback, and then we had this little transition that happened. We tried to come up with operationalizing it. And so I kind of talked through those steps. I'll skip forward to what we started doing. First, we had been sharing about the strategic plan. We had, in essence, a Google Doc or a Word document, however you want to refer to it, that listed the plan. But it was lacking context. It was sometimes in our different learning modalities and preferences, we need to have infographics. We need to have less words and more visualization about what this actually looks like. And so we did create this document. And I purposely refused to replace my copy, but it is falling apart. I even taped it a little bit because we're always opening this. And we're writing in it, and we're adding Post-it notes as different board members might say things that we need to address. We add those notes to make sure that we don't forget about those things. And we have been sharing this everywhere. So what are some examples? When we get invited to present to the Village Board of Trustees, all of the Board of Trustees and anyone there gets a copy of the plan. When we go to our parent associations to present, everyone at the parent association gets a copy. We want them to open it. We want them to look at it, and really, we want them to ask questions. We want them to demonstrate, just like our kids in our classroom, we want them to show that curiosity, and we want to navigate that, and we want to hear from them that because it's a living document, maybe there's some clarity we need to address, or maybe they have great ideas that might naturally fall into place, and we want to leverage that wisdom for a 5-year plan. We didn't just stop with adults. We continue to share with our students. I'll tell you, in this new role, I meet with student journalists a lot on a lot of topics. And almost every time I meet with them, it's on a topic that directly connects to their strategic plan. And so whenever I meet with them, they get some bonuses like board policy copies. Those are always fun. Maybe some printouts of the handbook. But we also talk about the strategic plan because our students are some of our best advocates. They know what's great about the district. Sometimes we just need to give them that structure and kind of get that ingrained, not only with our adults, but with our kiddos as well. And then certainly as the general public comes in, a lot of folks don't always realize when people move into the community, they move into the community many times because of the schools. And when people are making a choice, not to call out towns, but do I move maybe to Winnetka? Do I move to Glenview or Northbrook? We want to make sure that they know why they should move to Glenview and Northbrook. And these types of documents, that helps individuals who are counseling folks as they dynamic or create their dynamic residential plan, that pathway over to Glenview and Northbrook. And so this document, one publication, we're trying to get out there everywhere, in addition to our website and other materials. But then let's keep it going. We heard a lot of feedback, and we heard that there wasn't as much excitement about the strategic plan. So on the first day, we brought everyone together, by everyone, all of our teachers, all of our school counselors and college counselors, all of our instructional assistants, our clerical staff, our specialist staff, our administrators, everyone came together and we tried to demonstrate the excitement that this plan provides. And we answered some of those questions we heard. What is our plan? You don't have to guess what it is. It's right here. It's already written. Now, we do prioritize some things in each year to make sure that we're making adequate progress throughout. So for example, this year, we did focus on addressing chronic student absenteeism. Because when it comes to focus goal or strategy 1E, we need to make sure all students have what they need to be successful. And some of our students who are struggling getting to school, they need some special assistance. And so we need to support them in that. That's all in the plan. And it also directly gets to a need that we have, which is making sure all students are here and available for learning. So we got this plan out there. We've brought excitement to it as much as we can. And yes, it's how we talk about it that actually drives the excitement. Believe it or not many people are very excited about reading a whole lot of bullet points on a page. But when we connect it to our own kids, when we connect it to kids such as rising sophomores as they're going through their process, now it makes sense. And slowly but surely, we start even getting mentioned on social media in a positive way, which is very exciting. What else have we done? I mentioned we started a new strategic plan website. I want to call out Mandy, I apologize, but strategic plan is really focused on both of our school pages and it says learn more. We'll go ahead and skip past that next.
It's a great photo.
I'm sorry. Just to be clear, I flipped a coin on whether or not I was going to show GBN or GBS, and GBN won on that one.
Congratulations.
Or lost, depending on
So in what else have we done? In every action or every topic that's presented to the Board of Education, I use some screenshots here. You're seeing the strategic plan mentioned. So when Dr. Cummings and Dr. O'Malley and Ms. Holtz presented on the PLP, you saw that it's connected to focus area 1 and 3 and the specific strategies. But let's keep on going. When you actually look at the agenda, we don't bury the strategic plan. It is right there below the agenda item. Now, this is also technically a necessity in order to automatically build our dynamic dashboard, which will be shown in a moment. But it's out there because we want any community member that may have something exciting to look at about the district or might have an area for growth, we want them to know what our direction is. And it's right there for us. This again is something that didn't just happen overnight, because in order to align all of our different presentations, every one of the folks around the table, as well as their teams that are behind the scenes or their teams who are supporting them at the podium, they have to understand a strategic plan. And we built a system to build that awareness. And then we created another part of our website, which is this dynamic dashboard. But I want to emphasize a big thing here. And you all know I do love me some systems. So many school districts end up buying another system to monitor their strategic plan progress. And I would like to suggest that many of them look like spreadsheets. They just maybe have some bells and whistles. When you click on one of our items and dig into it, oh, I'll come back in a minute. When you click on one of our items to dig into it, and we'll actually live show this in a moment, you go directly to our Board of Education site. You see the actual goal, you see the strategy, you see the board meetings associated with it, you see write-ups on progress, and right there, you have the whole chronological order of things that we've presented to the board. And when you click on one of those items, not only can you see the multi-page, this is where I can be a little long-winded, right? The very long memos that support the topic. But you may not realize this. You can also click and see the video of the board meeting where it was discussed, so that you can hear the whole conversation that we had at the board table all through that dashboard. And we'll show you what that looks like with an example in a moment. So we've created our site, we've brought enthusiasm and awareness to our plan as much as we can. We continue to do that. And then also this year, I mentioned that we need to kind of funnel the work that we're doing. We established 5 initiatives. I mentioned chronic absenteeism was one of them. We also are working to clarify our special education supports and strengthen those programs. We've done a lot of work on communication. Just tonight, we had a new report that we're working to further inform our work. You've heard a lot of discussion from Mr. Breitag and Dr. Kim and Dr. Vasilopoulos on our late arrivals and how we're using that time to create curriculum maps and to provide professional learning opportunities for our staff. And then you'll learn a little more about this in the coming future. But we are really working to make sure that our students, maybe not those students that require specialized instruction through an IEP, but all of our students, in providing them multiple levels of support based on what they need. One example of this, kind of tying it back to chronic absenteeism, you heard Dr. Georges present when we looked at the school report card presentation, the concept in second semester where we're going to implement open campus SRT for students who have a high level of absenteeism, but we can incentivize them perhaps to show up as opposed to take days off, but give them freedom in exchange for showing up for their classes. As we keep on moving forward, it's not just about the focus areas, right? Student empowerment we'll dig a lot into today. It also comes back to these core values. And I want to remind the board that this is the first time the district has established district-wide core values, not values that are specific to north or south or off campus or transition, but these are our fundamental beliefs, which means all of our actions, all of our resource allocation, all of our decisions should tie back. And at the front of that is excellence in learning. Learning might be different for students based on their dynamic plan, but learning is our focus. That is our primary reason that we're all here. And as we expand on how do we support students who are learning, we make sure that they have that sense of belonging. They make sure that they know that we're here to support them. And as we continue going all the way through, it comes down to well-being, making sure that students at the end of the day have all of their basic needs met, that they are safe, that they are secure, and that they have what they need in order to be ready for learning. Everything keeps coming back here. And while we've talked so much about alignment to the focus areas, know that this is at the foundation of everything we're doing and checks us on making sure, are we student-centered? Are we responding to just a certain segment of society that might be having an opinion on something? How does it all connect back? And then one more important thing that we've been doing on the strategic plan. I can't emphasize this enough. The strategic plan is great when you have a lot of words on paper. You need a lot of board memos, board presentations. But it takes a different turn when you start connecting all of that work to the celebration of our staff and our students. And this year we have intentionally been finding opportunities to recognize our staff and our students for the excellence that they bring across the 4As that are really tied to our tagline, which is recognizing that all of this didn't happen overnight. All of this didn't start with the strategic plan. So much of this started from this legacy of excellence, all of the great work that our staff have done for decades, that our students have created a culture with of decades that continues forward. But we're not just stopping, we're challenging ourselves each and every day to incrementally improve, to innovate what our practices are. Mr. O'Hara asked a really great question at the beginning or in the middle of our presentation. You said, help me understand. Guidance counselor, school counselor, how does this all work? The question is really coming up now because things have changed in 20 or 30 years when these roles might have been more clearly distinguished, when a counselor might have been more of a clerical role as opposed to really the guide on this journey for our students in whatever path they choose to take. But as these things change, we need to make sure we're putting them out there for everyone to see. And we need to make sure we're celebrating those successes and also identifying things that we're working on to continue going to the next level. And so you're seeing a whole lot of work there. And hopefully one day I'll get even more likes here. Although Mr. Glowacki said he's my first download for this episode. So I'm already up to 1 for this one. Let's keep on going. Oh, I'm going to get some forwards next too. Mr. Downing's going to post me now. So let's kind of get into what tonight's all about. A strategic plan too often becomes a document that gets put into literature holders on a wall, or it's a great coffee table artifact. We have tried to do everything we can to get away from that concept and to force it to be a living document. But when we say it's a living document, it's not just about having the staples come out and needing to tape it together because we open it so much. It's also about digging into it and identifying what's work and where there's some areas for growth. And so from when we first published this, which was in June, to today, I can tell you we've gotten a lot of feedback. People are feeling the excitement, they're opening it, they're reading it, and they're saying, hey, I just need some clarity, understanding. Okay, we got a goal, but it's a focus area. No, we got some strategies. No, it's an outcome. And then like, where does the work come into play? So tonight, we're going to show how we take the not static plan, but the living document. And we're going to make some incremental changes to it. I'm going to introduce those terms right now. What are some overarching things? We have 4 goals. 4 big things that drive our work in the district. We called them focus areas. Now we're going to call them goals, just to make it easy and to be in alignment with a lot of strategic plans. When you have a goal, to accomplish it, you need to have a variety of strategies. So every goal has strategies. All right, so we have some strategies. So let's just kind of work through this just as a sample example and go to my focus area 1. Student empowerment. Strategy 1A is each student will develop a dynamic plan to navigate their experience in the district. Students will engage with these plans throughout high school in partnership with school counselors, and parents and guardians, right? We've talked about this. Plans that are dynamic, that are built not standalone, but with staff who are guiding them and their families. Performance indicators is a really important thing. Is that goal, is that strategy going to be accomplished in year 1, in year 2? When's it going to be done? And what does being accomplished mean? Are 100% of students going to have accomplished that within a certain time? 50% of students, 25? What's the number? We don't have currently in our plan performance indicators, but that's what we've started to build out for the plan. And then once you identify the target that you're going towards, now there's a whole lot of activities that go into it. So for example, strategy is build the dynamic learning plan. In order to build the plan, we decided an indicator was by January, we want 100% of our eligible students to have completed that plan. And those eligible students are our current freshman class who actually attend classes at Glenbrook as opposed to maybe receiving their services in another district. The activities to make that happen, we needed to communicate with parents to let them know we're hosting these in-person meetings. We needed to provide mechanisms for them to attend in person, attend on the phone, attend on Zoom. We had to train our staff to know exactly what these meetings were going to be. We need to build all of that, all those structures. Those are all the activities that go underneath. And so from this big goal to individual strategies, there's a whole bunch more work that's happening. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I've talked a lot about the strategic plan dashboard. We're going to pull it up in just a moment. Our goal tonight is to focus on goal 1, student empowerment. The reason why we're only focusing on one goal right now is we need the board's feedback. Some of you might have that feedback tonight. Other of you might want to follow up later on, but we want to hear, is what we are building here, does it make sense? Are there things that are missing? Are there things that are confusing? We need the raw feedback. Everything is eligible to be shared. And then our plan is during the second semester to build this out for all of the other 3 goals. And then to keep this going for multiple times a year presentations. Now, I want to say one other thing about our long-term, at least administrative goal here. We have reviewed so many districts and how they present their strategic plan. And I can't emphasize how much districts end up making 4-hour-long presentations with many PowerPoint slides trying to show everything in it and relive it. Our goal in this has been trying to live the strategic plan board meeting by board meeting, activity by activity. And while it is important to do those dashboard reviews, where are the big efforts that we have to make progress? If the first time you're hearing about progress is when we do our once a semester review to the board, we are not living the plan. And so our goal is not to do one of those grandiose presentations where we're just digging into everything, because we want to be doing this every meeting. And we're really trying to incrementally add things to the agenda to make sure it's not too long. I apologize, today will be a little longer. But just know that that's kind of what our goal is as we're getting through here. And so with that said, I am very fortunate to transition here. You can sit from your chairs if you'd like. We have Ryan and Laura who are going to own goal 1 here. However, someone's going to need to kind of navigate through. So Christina, if you do me one favor, just jump to the next slide and click on the link, just so we have it open. And then I will defer to Laura and Ryan. And I apologize if I said stuff that you might have planned to cover. I apologize.
It's perfect.
I'm just hoping I can match your enthusiasm.
No doubt.
That is,
You have the enthusiasm, Laura. I know you do.
well, I have the enthusiasm about a personalized learning plan. For 15 years, I've been in this district with 12 of my years at Glenbrook South. And this is what I have wanted. I have wanted for us to intentionally come together as a district and create a similar experience. We haven't had that in 15 years. So even before then, right? And so that we were so intentional about creating our curriculum, coming together and making sure parents, it didn't matter what school you went to, parents had an opportunity to be involved in that planning. So that enthusiasm I have, I'm hoping I'm going to have the exact same for this. I do believe this has been a significant step for our district to move in this direction. I'll also kind of throw out there, counselors at South and North never came together. They didn't really know each other. And so the thought that we could bring them in a room together and that they can create the curriculum for students together is mind blowing. So to summarize before we get to the first goal to talk about, as RJ mentioned, these board memos that we've been sharing with you, whether it's been the course planner, school links, the PLP tonight, they're not standalone topics, very intentional on why we're here and really making this document come to life. I too carry mine everywhere I go. Mine looks like a disaster, but I'm not willing to get a new one yet either. So I just keep making my comments all over it. So to support it, we're going to go through the dashboard, which really is our one-stop shop for looking at progress. So if you are on our first goal, I'm going to walk you through this. A couple things I'm going to mention before we actually dive into some of it. You are going to notice on here what looks like typos, and you're going to say, wow, who typed that? It is not. They're not typos, but Diligent is working. Oh, were they corrected? No, there are still some. The one, it was spelling some inappropriate words up there for a minute, but Diligent is on it. They understand the problem. They are working to fix it. So if you could ignore kind of some of the typos and more the content that you're seeing, that would be fabulous. So as you can see here, you'll see the description of 1A. Where it says outcomes, those are actually, that wording is going to be changed. Those are actually the performance indicators, not the outcomes. So when you look at the first outcome, by December of 2025, 100% of freshman students will have a PLP. And we set these goals to be very ambitious, right? I want every student to be able to have a personalized learning plan. When I look at our data, and our data primarily comes from School Links, we're currently at 95% of freshmen that have one. It's amazing. The reason we're not at 100 and might never get to 100 kind of goes back to what RJ was talking about in terms of it's individualized. So for some students who might not be attending school in the Glenbrooks or are attending school in the Glenbrooks, this might not be the appropriate path for them to be creating their personalized learning plan. That doesn't mean we're not focused on transition planning, but it's just done differently than this. But we have created our goals to be quite ambitious, and we look forward to working through that. If you scroll down a little, thank you, Christina. You can see our activities. So last year, how I had described in the 24-25 year was really where all the work was done. This is year one of implementation, and it only needs to be a 3-year goal because next year, we're going to take all the feedback that we learned from this year and we're going to refine it, and we'll continue to refine it, but it will be part of our fabric, part of who we are as the Glenbrooks and carrying forward. So we don't need to extend this beyond the next year. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you're able to now see, based on 1A, any board meeting that we've had that had a topic that related to this goal. So Christina, if you wouldn't mind clicking on, not tonight's because it might not be updated yet, but maybe January 13th, School Links implementation. So here is where, just up a little, I'm so sorry, right there, perfect, is where RJ was talking about the split screen and the video for you to be able to watch that video. If you scroll down on the right-hand side, you're gonna see the goal update. And there you're going to be able to real quickly see where we're at with our progress. The 80% for strategy 1A is because there are other things for us still to work on. We're not completely done with that. We've made incredible progress, but when you go back in and you look at some of our other strategies within there, we still have work to do. And so that is why we're not yet at 100% on that one. But the real nice part is everything's focused on 1A. And so you're able to go right to that memo and be able to look at that memo, watch the video, and see the progress on the right-hand side. All right. I'm going to move on to 1B. Thank you. Look at you. You're already there. So this goal as well revolves around our curriculum that we've been working on with the counselors for our sophomore students and is really centered around goals, career goals. So as you will see, by December of 2025, 100% of our sophomore students will have identified a career goal. School Links doesn't create that goal. It's really the platform and the tool that's allowing us. The data that and the reporting features that we have in School Links makes it really easy to identify how many of our students have completed different tasks. And so as you can see, very close to completing that goal, but we still have more activities there. And when we look at like 1A or 1B, it's not just a student support, right? There's many different parts of it. So there are some activities that, you know, teaching and learning is involved, and there's activities where we're actually, you know, working together with our counterparts to work through. So I am going to turn it over to Mr. Breitag to talk us through 1C and 1D.
And I want to add
Great.
one real quick comment. I mentioned briefly that some of our strategies require multiple years. Other strategies, as Dr. Cummings mentioned, strategy 1A, might be done in the first 3 years. A good strategic plan, you're not going to get to 100% of every goal, of every strategy, until at best the end of your plan. And really, a strategic plan, because it's a living document, will likely continue to evolve. So even when in theory the plan comes to an end and you're starting to build a new plan, there's still work that's being done. The other comment I wanted to say is the natural question might come up, okay, so you've built these dynamic learning plans, kind of using that as our general example. And yes, you've accomplished it for this year's student. What's the plan for next year? Are you not doing it anymore or what have you? Once we've actually fully implemented something, we assume that it is continuing because it is woven into whether it's the school counseling curriculum or woven into our registration and planning process. It's there and we're continuing to build upon it. There's likely incremental changes that are happening, but it's there. So it does seem like we will get to our first 100% sooner than later on Dr. Cummings' most exciting strategy. But with that said, Mr. Breitag has some equally exciting strategies.
I want to have that like light, that glowing light that says ditto that points at the other house for the holiday lights. What he just said. So he took my wonderful 1C thunder. So I'm just going to build on that and say, when you look at 1C, what gets really exciting here is, as Dr. Gravel mentioned, I've been here a little over 20 years. And during that time, I've seen 3 strategic plans. This is the first one where the early ones were so conceptual. They were beautiful in their words, but in their ability for people to grab and take ownership of and find a part of themselves in it, that was a little bit more difficult. For instance, our last strategic plan way back when we were going to have meaningful learning. And you were to make sense of that. One of the things in there was social emotional learning. We didn't have a lot of performance indicators. So it became difficult for us to wrestle with, what does that mean? How does student services and student supports and teaching and learning, where do we find that ownership? When you look at 1C, that's what I'm so very proud of, is that there's tremendous opportunities for us to go after this idea of developing job readiness and social emotional skills. And you can see through the performance indicators, we have a lot of different areas tying in, from our student services department to our PE and health, having a direct targeted indicator about how we embed ruler, which you've heard about a few times, into the health curriculum and beyond. How do all of our curriculum maps by 2028, so the 5-year portion, have social emotional learning standards and skills embedded into the curriculum? So as Dr. Gravel mentioned, this is really a 5-year goal. That's not to say the 20% is low. That's right where we need to be when we're at this point of a 5-year plan for bringing this to life. The other thing I really want to note that's important, a lot of times you will see percentages, but at other times you'll see indicators such as the first one that talks about percentiles. Percentiles are another really important piece. When it comes to something like measuring belonging, we want to be able to compare ourselves nationally and locally. So the percentile gives us an ambitious but achievable goal. So while we know we want all of our students to feel a sense of belonging, we are targeting being in the 95th percentile, which statistically says we are excelling, we are achieving at an exemplary level. So it also is to reach that 95th percentile requires strategic, systematic changes. It cannot be random. That is, if you take nothing away from 1C, that is at the heart and soul of this strategic plan. And it's what most excites me, is that we really have to have targeted strategic actions if we're going to achieve these performance indicators. With that, I turn to our lowest completed right now, which is 10%. But it's equally exciting because what we are really talking about is this is one of those descriptions that talk about staff. So a lot of times we're talking students, but one of the things we know is we need to build in the support systems for our staff to bring these ideas to life. So in this area, you see a number of things that we've targeted. We talked earlier about honors and accelerated honors. How is that coming to fruition? We know that's in the first year. We know that we've added late arrival times. That's in its first year. So a lot of these systems are in their infancy. They're also what is important to all of us, and that's what you'll see deep inside the activities. We know our first year of professional learning communities should never look the same in 5 years, or we're not listening well enough and we're not growing them well enough. So we're in the early phases of this, but people can see the clear targets that our staff 100% will have participated in professional learning communities at the end of this year and have developed targeted goals in curriculum mapping and high yield practices. That's an ambitious target. That's something we haven't taken on as a whole district. Here, it's outlined specifically what we're doing and then what that builds to next. So really excited about how these are unfolding, again, to put the idea that we all have a way to contribute to this strategic plan in a very targeted way that we know about, as opposed to, again, at the time it made a lot of sense, big broad words and themes, but now we're getting very targeted. So with that, we will wrap up with 1E.
One of the ones on 1E that I would love to draw some attention to is a goal that I've also had for 15 years. And that is that all of our freshmen and seniors will have complied with their immunizations and physicals, and we would not need to exclude any students. As you know, based on a previous presentation, board memo, articulating 1E, we excluded 0 students this year, which is like phenomenal. I really don't know of another high school that has excluded 0 students. So I just have to do it. A huge shout out to our nurse's office and our health center on that one. But yet another example, you'll see overall progress on this one is at 30%. 1E is a challenging one because it is so broad. And really, when you get down to everyone needing what they need, it really does encompass quite a bit. And so there is a lot of work still left to do on that goal.
And I would add two pieces. I think with 1E, Dr. Gravel had said something really important early on. I want to bounce back to that. And that is the idea that it's easy to be distracted by what is emerging. And when it comes to this goal, that would be at the forefront because our hearts are big. We want to achieve everything. This allows us to stay focused and targeted over the next 5 years and measure the progress. And I think you can see some really important pieces in here, from the health center to our multilingual students to our implementation of Accelerated Placement Act. That seems like we talked about that so long ago, but we're in year 1. These are massive initiatives that are addressing the individual needs of students. This keeps us honest over the next 5 years of where to target our work. And having it laid out in this format, people start to say, oh, well, we've only achieved 25% of accelerated honors. Oh, or the Accelerated Placement Act. Next year, it's 50%. Then we're at 75. Oh, we still have work there. We're not done. And sometimes in a highly ambitious organization, it's easy to shift right before we're through defining the depths of what we're working on. The other piece I want to note with that one, by August 28th, this started out as a state initiative. And I think what's really nice about our strategic initiative, early on, we talked about our values. And when we look at our values and we have state initiatives that come our way, whether it's Accelerated Placement Act or the variety of curriculum initiatives coming our way, we can take our values and tie those in and say, how do we bring that to life in the best interest of our community and our students, as this goal outlines?
And so kind of as we wrap up our portion, Christina, could you bring us back to the website, actually? Perfect, and then all the way up. Oh, low down to that dashboard. A little more. Perfect. All right. There's some areas for growth that we're going to be working through administratively this semester. Because as you all know, we function on a semester basis on our entire calendar. There is some redundancy that we've identified within our goals. I'll use Mrs. Smith's area. In the area of communications, we have communications sprinkled in through a number of goals, and really in part that came about because there was a lot of feedback we had from different stakeholder groups, and so it was kind of added in a variety of places. But when you're really building a strategic plan, we need to make sure that things are in clear areas and that we're not just associating the same initiative with all sorts of different strategies when really it's one big one. So we have some area there. We also identified that we're currently having a significant discussion about our master facilities plan. And the master facility plan work and the tremendous effort of the district to maintain fiscal responsibility, that's not really addressed in any of the goals right now. You can, in many ways, associated with each student will have access to staff resources and support to meet their unique needs, but that's not a traditional kind of finance and facilities goal. So we'll likely bring forth a recommendation in the spring that we would add a goal 5 that would relate to some of those operational needs. Because to be candid, what has gotten our district to be extremely successful is not without mentioning of the operational components. And we need to continue to improve on our operations and challenge ourselves to be even better. And we need a place to have those goals and to track that. So those are some things that'll happen. There's also a few areas, Mr. Breitag was kind of mentioning them, when we have some overlap or different words that we've used in goals that we can do some cleanup on. So nothing structurally significant outside of possibly adding a goal 5, but just some cleanup language and some consolidation. The other thing I just wanted to really emphasize, and Dr. Johns shepherded us through so much of this, our district, with over 78 years in existence, has a lot of amazing elements to it. But one area that we absolutely have had room for growth is the development of systems. And Mr. Breitag mentioned the infancy of some of our systems. We just established a consistent late arrival schedule. So for the first time, to many of our parents and students, there's no confusion on when there's a late arrival day or not. It's clear. And for our staff, we've implemented a consistent set of expectations and activities that they are working through each and every week. We've built that system. As we get into years 2 and 3, we're going to be more efficient with that time. That's just a fact because it will be more natural. And now we're having multiple years to plan for what those activities are, not just a few weeks and months. So I just want to really emphasize that early on in the plan, building systems, it may not sound as exciting, but with strong systems, we can really start to accomplish things that are all measurable that directly relate to the student experience. So to Dr. Johns for his work in starting our systems process and building our plan, we're doing well, and we're going to do some amazing things in the coming years. With that said, that does conclude the administration's presentation, but we are more than happy to click through things, discuss, and we really would like your candid feedback on how we've structured tonight and as we're moving forward.
Well, thank you so much. That was very exciting. Mr. O'Hara, did you want to kick us off?
Sure. I don't know if it was very exciting, but it was very informative. It was very informative. But I think you're right. It's like the system, when you talk about the systems and building a system, it's like the road runner. His feet move a lot and then all of a sudden he takes off moving, you know? And so as you build these systems, it might not feel like you've done a lot. I know some of it can be measured early on and it's great. However, most of your results come later down the road when you build these systems the right way and you get this institutional memory is what we're trying to build, it feels like. And so I'm excited to see it. I'm glad we crossed off a couple of your goals from 15 years ago. I'm sure you have a couple other ones. Okay. But no, thank you. Thank you guys very much. I do like how the presentation, I do like how we go into the points. I think it's good to see, to keep coming back to these, because too many times I've been involved with strategic plans that just, it's a excuse to pay a consultant some money and to put it to the side afterwards. So I like the fact we're actually following up with it. We dug the hole, we're going to build the house now, and it's great.
Ms. Hope?
Yeah, this dashboard and all of the links is so cool to be able to come back to, and hoping to bookmark it and keep coming back to it. And it's been so helpful on every agenda to have the strategic plan goals that are associated with what we're talking about. I'd love a little more time to sift through it in detail before giving specific feedback, but all of the tools are here and this is really well done.
Mr. Downing?
You know, I echo that, really well done. I like the dashboard much better than this spreadsheet, so that's great. You know, following through on a strategic plan is probably hardest thing you ever do in business. It really is. I mean, I can't tell you how many strategic plans I've had and how they're piled up, and you know, anyway, I'm not here to confess. But so that I applaud, I truly do. Since I wasn't here for the formation of it, and I'm really just kind of here seeing it as you're pursuing through it. There was a comment you made about staff and kind of, you know, is the board's responsibility for strategic plan. And then Ryan, you made a comment about we're only 10% with staff, which is, I've been, in my experience, been very common that getting staff together and to buy into something, even though they may have been a part of it, change management is probably the hardest thing I've ever seen in business, period. It sounds like you have people going on board. Was there resistance? Is there still resistance?
in an organization with a rich legacy of excellence.
That's where I was going.
Always connection to our historical path of approach. I truly believe it comes down to one conversation at a time,
Mhm.
one initiative at a time, and emphasizing that we don't just celebrate what's new, but we celebrate
Honor.
the tremendous work of the folks who have been here for decades. And that includes some of our teachers who have been here through decades, as well as decades of being community members or students along with that. And slowly but surely, I believe we're making progress. I think that there's a lot. I asked a survey, I asked a question to every single staff member in the district. There was some incentives to complete it. But I asked this question, what is one thing that we could do to support them and make this year great? And I got a wealth of ideas. Food is always a good thing to make people's day better.
Common theme.
But, you know, sometimes that works around the board table as well with long policy meetings. But the most common thread came down to something like, I have confidence and faith that we're turning a page and we're going in a direction, but I want to see it come to fruition. And so let's make it come back to communication. We do all of the work at the board table. Do people know what we're talking about? The answer is we've created a large number of ways to communicate that out, but we're also providing opportunities for ongoing feedback. And so I think over time that'll get better. There's definitely people who are fully supportive of everything, and there's other folks who are still wanting to see what that means for our students.
There's listen, there's always resistance. Whatever we can do to help, because it's, you know, whatever we can do to help shepherd this along, please let us know, because if it's communication from us or whatever, but as an alum, as a community member, as, you know, with kids in the school and graduated, you know, all this is really refreshing. I feel like we're coming back to that sense of belongingness. I feel like we're coming back to the focus on kids, which if you talk to anybody in this, that's a staff, faculty, administration, anybody that's been involved in this community, you know, they call it the Glenbrooks. This is a special place. It's because of that belongingness, and this is centered around that. And I'm happy to evangelize it as any way I can.
Perhaps support an accordion wall in this room to have more people be able to come to be recognized, because it can get a little tight in here.
Mr. Glowacki?
Humor in that.
I just want to applaud. I mean, really, this is remarkable what you guys have done. When this was initially brought on way back when, I think as an initial thought of how to help us focus on all these important areas that we keep getting pulled into, you know, those opportunities that pop up, and how do you use the resources effectively and stuff. So to pull together the way you have, and to be able to then celebrate the milestones as we achieve them, but also course correct, using these tools to course correct when we're at a different part and make it part of the dialogue. It is leaking into the parent conversations. They are starting to see this and go, oh wait, we're talking about students. How is this? And you know, I know you're asking for specific feedback on should there be a goal 5 or not, separate or not. That actually comes back to that as well too. How do we tie that back into the student experience? What does that mean? And I do recall that there were discussions about it even at that time. So we could probably work through all that and figure out how does that best put the community forward, put the students and community first, and put the resources where they're best to be utilized. But kudos. I mean, I don't know what else, just you should be proud. Take this moment to celebrate what you've done and how you've made this part of our dialogue on a routine basis.
Mr. Glowacki did it. Can we all give everyone here a round of applause for all their work? We're just going to keep that going for a moment.
Dr. Steinberg?
Yeah, I agree. Just comment, I got this comment in a different context earlier last week. A lot of people also want to be part of an organization to do their job. And sometimes we misjudge their silence as if they are not on board. So sometimes to hear 10% is in favor doesn't mean that it's only 10%. There are a lot of people that otherwise would be kicking and screaming, but that they are happy that there are no obstacles for them doing their work. And we need to find ways to capture that as well. I wouldn't sell short in terms of, we always have early adopters, but I think there are a lot of people, especially in communities like ours, that, and it happens in board meetings, and if they don't show up, it's not necessarily because they don't care. They may be like, I'm happy with, you say always about these things, I'm happy about how things are going. So I would say, I don't think this has been unnoticed. So some people may be waiting, but some people may be like, hey, they don't need me to do anything. I'm happy with the way things are. So hopefully we can capture that as well. Two, this is great. I've been around strategic plans, and the hardest thing is to assess how it's going. Not even implementing it or know how it's going. So I'm like looking at all these, you talk about system here, system there. This is like perfect. I do have two comments. I was thinking, who's the intended audience for this, right? So I started remembering you created a 2-page, or you or Vicky created a 2-pager for the budget, where we have a lot of information, but there's a two. All right, I like to minimize. Maybe there is a Cliff Notes version of this system.
Popular annual financial report.
There's a Cliff Notes version of this system for the people who are the people who are not going to be clicking everywhere or keeping track of everything, where this is the fallback. If I want to know more, it's here. But it's
The
something,
executive summary.
yeah, kind of like, hey, here's how we're going. How is this? How progress go? A 2-pager or something like that. The second comment is, because I believe we are a leading district. If I would have a wish list on this thing, it's lessons learned, right? So this is what we accomplished and what we have done. But what did we learn on the process? In particular, if we want to prepare ourselves for updating the strategic plan down the road, some things were, I'm sure some things were harder to implement than others. Some things got more buy-in, some things got less. We thought about doing it this way. We realized halfway through it that we want to do it a different way. That has to be documented somewhere. And I don't know if this needs to be public or not, but I think makes it for a great paper down the road as well. But it's like, this is who we are as a district, so we should take the opportunity to document that. Everything is great.
Well, I have to say that, I mean, we're just going to sort of follow on comments. This is a tremendous work product. And I think everyone is very excited about it. I wish Mr. Shine were here, because when we talked about the strategic plan, always, he talked about accountability. And all of this is showing people just what Mr. Breitag said. You can have these very lofty aspirational words, but until you actually get some KPIs against it, how do you know that you've actually accomplished anything? Or even, what do you know that you have to do to accomplish something? You know, the work of taking these large goals and breaking them down into strategies and then KPIs and then progress against those, that is the hard digging in that makes us be able to show our community that we didn't just come up with these like highfalutin ideals, we're actually implementing them, and we're working against a plan in a way that is focused and not getting distracted, but learning, from the process, adapting as we go along, seeing what we may have left out and what we need to include. So having it be a living document. I personally love all of the being able to click through, because that is just, to be able to put it all together and say, just like Dr. Cummings said, that these are all of these presentations that we have on, they aren't one-offs. It all fits together. You're coming to us and showing us these pieces, and then you're helping us understand how they fit into this larger framework that we're marching through. And we're quantifying progress, because people love to see percentages, percentiles, whatever. I don't know that everyone expects us to be at 100% right away, but they want to see forward movement. And the way that you can do that is, have these documents be updated consistently. So, and I must say, I mean, truly, this must have been just a tremendous amount of work to put together. And it's really user friendly, I think. I love though, the idea of having some sort of executive summary, because not everyone's going to have the appetite for clicking through every strategy under every goal. But they will nonetheless want to know what's going on. And I'm looking forward to spending some time digging into it so I can give some, focused feedback on it. But one thing that I thought might be a good idea is, we had so many people involved in the process of creating the strategic plan, all of the committees and people from all over, parents and families and students and staff. And I just want to make sure that those people know that their work is being like, look at this, look at what's come from that. They worked hard, and this is not a strategic plan that just got thrown into, someone's file and that disappeared. All that heavy lifting that they did, we're doing something with it. And I bet that if maybe there are parents that don't have kids in the district anymore, or maybe there are students who've graduated, so they don't really think about the work that they did on it, but I bet they'd love to hear where we are 2 years down the road and how far we've come and what we're planning to do. I would be thrilled personally if I were part of that, one of those committees, to be able to click through this and look at these sorts of documents. So, but all in all, kudos all around. And I am very excited to really dig into it. So we will definitely get you feedback. And I agree that we all expect that there will be changes, and, we'll assist you in figuring out what would be useful as far as those changes go. But really, yeoman's work. Thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone for your feedback.
Okay. Speaking of yeoman's work, that brings us to Dr. Johns with his update on the policy manual.
Thank you, Ms. Mullenbeck. I've been sitting here thinking how I can generate the enthusiasm that has been present this evening. And I don't have 15 years of policy rewrites needed. I have 20. So my enthusiasm's growing inside of me. Tonight,
I feel it.
you feeling it,
I'm
right?
feeling it.
Okay.
Can I get
Preach. Thank you. I'm here to give a quick update on where we're at with our policy modernization project. The last time I spoke with you on this topic was the October 27th board meeting, where we shared the 5 chapters or sections of policy that we were bringing forward to our formal meeting with the IASB to start to generate it as our future policy manual. And we've done that. We had that meeting on November 13th. They were very impressed with the work that we had done. We were very organized in how we transmitted our thoughts and perspectives on the policies that help things proceed very well. Some of the feedback we received, though, and this really ties into focus area 3 when we talk about simplifying information, being transparent, focusing on clarity. The feedback is the document that we had before was an awful lot to read. So what you have in front of you is we took that feedback and we created this document trying to make it as simple as possible to go through and see what policies are retained, which policies are sunset, and what we're doing as our next steps, whether or not we are adopting with an amendment or just straight up adopting. So that's what the current version looks like. I also want to extend on what was said earlier about our meeting this afternoon. I think some real great credit needs to go to the policy committee. This is, I hate to say it, but it is tedious work. And tonight we went through the first half of chapter 6. We reviewed 29 policies under chapter 6, and we did 8 to 10 policies under chapter 7. So that leaves us with 48 to go in a date to be determined in January before we meet with the IASB representative on January 28th. So we have a lot of work to do, but the committee has done tremendous work so far. On a side note, and I think this is something we need to reconcile with, there is some urgency. The press update came out 2 weeks ago and indicated there's 119 policies that are going to have to be revised in some format due to new legislation, maybe some case law, new regs that have come out from the state. So we want to get kind of ahead of the curve to the best that we can. Fortunately, the IASB is going to work with us to help integrate some of these new policies or these revisions into the work that we have ahead in our next 2 meetings with the IASB. So we're working as fast as we can because it's almost a Sisyphean task that there's more coming all the time. But the committee's done great work. I hope you'll find this table to be more clear, more simple, more transparent as we continue this process. Any questions or feedback?
I just want to say thank you to my colleagues that are putting all this work. Thank you to you as well, but the rest of you are all volunteers like us. So thank you for putting the time and doing this.
We do it for the food.
Okay, I'm thanking you as well. I just want to highlight.
But one thing just to point out to the full board, you know, we're what the system that we've adopted for this is a little bit different than what IASB's sort of, you know, wish list would be that the full board be involved. And we knew that wasn't going to happen. But this document hopefully will give you an opportunity to, at a high level, look at what we're doing, and we're doing this incrementally, so that at the end of the year, at the end of the academic year, I should say, when we've completed the entire manual, that you've been able to kind of follow along, and it's not an enormous task to go through the entire binder and try to work through all the changes. You know, this will kind of help you, you know, follow along with us a little bit, so that when we get to the point where we ask the full board to look at the new manual and vote on it, that you'll be in a position to do that, you know, sooner rather than later, because as Dr. Johns points out, you know, the new policies just keep coming. So we would really love to be in a position to have this in place, so that for the new academic year, we're ready to roll as we get new updates, you know, coming from each legislative session. All right. Unless anyone has any other burning comments about policy, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is
Love the chart.
rescission of intent to withdraw from True North Education Cooperative 804. Dr. Gravel.
Speaking of charts, hopefully everyone loves this chart as well. In the memo, we made a revision following last meeting to add table 1, which clarifies the kind of comparison of circumstances for remaining a member of True North or withdrawing from True North. As a reminder to the Board of Education, the administration is recommending that we remain a member of True North 804. That is primarily predicated on the reality that the organization recently revised and approved its Articles of Agreement, which remove any financial consequences of remaining a member. The only expenses the district will incur are those expenses from services that we choose to utilize, whether that's a tuition-based program or a contracted service. As we move forward from a programmatic perspective, it's important to always remember that remaining a member provides the district with an option. And that option might be an essential option for a student who needs it. And True North's plan to re-envision a therapeutic day school, providing services all the way from early childhood education, or ECE, through transition services, is essential for those, for many of our students who might need it. And we do have several students that are receiving their educational services in external placements from Glenbrook, because that's the appropriate, least restrictive environment for them. Finally, it's just always important to recognize that as a non-unit district, meaning we have 5 elementary feeder districts and the high school district where everyone feeds into, there are students who start a program at True North and will remain in those programs by remaining a member, should it be deemed appropriate by a student's multidisciplinary committee or their IEP team, that is the appropriate setting for them. By remaining a member, they will remain eligible to stay at True North. Whereas if we left, there would not necessarily be that guaranteed access to services. So given all those changes and the follow-up that we had since last meeting, we recommend proceeding, and I'm happy to answer any questions the board might have.
I appreciate the chart. First of all, thank you for including that. Only question I had, are the articles of agreement available for review?
Yes, they have been,
Did I miss them? I'm sorry if I missed them.
I'm pretty sure they were in a bullet points for the board.
Oh, maybe, okay.
They're also available through True North, but I can certainly provide them to the board right now.
I apologize if I missed them.
Did anyone else have any questions? We discussed this quite a bit at the last meeting.
I'm sorry I wasn't there, but
Oh,
last
Dr.
year, last
Steinberg?
time, but just one or two things. For those, I know a few of us had gone there before. It's like night and day in terms of how the board and administration work right now. Yes, it's like unbelievable, and it due to many things, okay? But one thing that I do want to recognize is that we were on our way out, and we had a process to be on our way out, and no arguments about it. But as a district, credit to RJ, probably credit to both of you, not just RJ, Dr. Jones and RJ. What I heard when I went the first time was that we had issues with the way things were being done, and that was what pushed us out. So when there was an opening of changing the way we're going, we didn't shy away from it, and RJ took a leadership role on that, and he was recognized for it. So we may not see it here, but my first meeting there, we were kind of like the black sheep, or maybe black sheep number 2. And we went from there to people waiting for RJ to make a presentation. And even though, you know, things have changed totally, I think we are a leader district in the area. So it's a good opportunity for us, especially it doesn't cost anything, but to continue being a leader district of the area. So whatever we vote, we shouldn't discount that part. It's not just simply, at this point, it's definitely not dollars and cents. It's more about how we come up as part of a larger community. At least those are my 2 cents.
Okay. Did you want to have a vote tonight or bring it on consent?
We do need a vote tonight based on True North's procedures.
Fine. Okay. Okay, so we have a recommendation from the administration to rescind our intent to withdraw from True North Education Cooperative 804. We have a motion?
So moved.
I second.
Ms. Smith?
Mr. Downing,
Yes.
Mr. Glowacki,
Yes.
Mrs. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. O'Hara,
Yes.
Dr. Steinberg,
Yes.
Ms. Mullenbeck.
Yes.
6 members voting yes.
All right.
Right.
Well, that takes us then to our possible topics for future meetings.
All right, in response to feedback from the board, we have a few very important committee meetings coming up. On January 12th, there will be a joint Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. This will be to, again, have another discussion on the master facilities plan. So for anyone who might be interested, we will do that at likely 5 o'clock, kind of starting earlier again for that purpose. But that will be on the 12th. On the 26th, we will have our our second Communications Committee meeting. And there are 2 really important topics there. Many board members might also be interested. We have a fall communication survey. Early spoiler alert, the feedback is great. So Carol will have her enthusiasm ready on that topic.
And charts, hopefully.
Oh, many charts, many dockets. It's going to be great. And then we will also begin the conversation about student representatives to the board table. Early preview, we will start focusing on the importance of establishing and maintaining principal advisory committees at both Glenbrook North and Glenbrook South, which will also feed representatives into a superintendent's advisory committee that will then create a structure and a pathway. That's in line with what we've learned from the conference and kind of creating this mechanism to get there. So early preview for everyone who's here that just heard. So all are welcome. Remember, you don't have to be on the committee to come. There are cookies.
Did anyone have any additional potential topics for future meetings that they'd like to raise this time? That's okay. If something comes to mind later, you can always shoot RJ or me an email or call or carrier pigeon, however you want to get to us. All right, and I do think we will have closed session tonight.
Yes, there will be no action coming out of closed session. So we will come to a close on our broadcast, and I would ask the board if we could go directly into closed. I believe this will be brief and that will allow us to keep going.
Okay, so I'll need a motion to go into closed.
So moved.
Well, don't we have to read the
Oh, I have to read my script.
reason
I
for it?
forgot about my script. Okay. This evening, the Board of Education will enter into a closed session to discuss sensitive matters as allowed under the Illinois Open Meetings Act. Please note that no action will be taken following the closed session this evening. At this time, I will entertain a motion to consider litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting in accordance with Section 2C11 of the Open Meeting Act.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Directly into close.